Welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You, Talk of the Town on LIU Public Radio. I'm Kristina Liu, Director of Senior Citizen Affairs for the Town of North Hempstead and producer and host of the show. And my co-host today is Otto Lose, who's my friend. He's a volunteer and the ultimate Project Independence ambassador, I'd say. So, Otto, we had quite the first hour. I mean, when a topic is so important and so robust, when you like forget what time it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, I kept looking at the clock, like I need to wrap it up. We discussed, we had an interview. If you missed our first interview, it was with Wendy Goydell and Connie Wasserman from the Goydell Law Group. And it's all about teaming up concierge care of social work and elder law. And really, I just think this should be a model for all firms, really.
Yeah, when I read about it before we talked to these two ladies, I thought, geez, that's a great concept. I hadn't really seen that anywhere. And I'm not knocking anybody, but we've had a lot of attorneys on the show over the years, but never did that type of an approach come up.
Yeah.
Where you combine the
this
ability to
holistic
talk to a
approach to
social
things,
worker and the attorney about the needs, the emotional needs, all the pieces that go into when you have these problems. And the biggest nugget that comes out of it again is the same old story. You have to be proactive and you have to plan, whether you like the idea or not. Someday you may get older, you may have a problem, and you may need help.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to have some degree of control, if you will, over that.
No, and it's interesting because even in the medical world of things, in recent times, you've seen more of a kind of shift towards like this holistic kind of approach, which is just always the best kind of approach. I mean, like across the board in so many situations, having everyone kind of on the same page always works, right? No matter personally, whatever it might be, it's always something that, is just great. And then thinking, with this world of, estate planning and just planning in general for your future, and having the social work component, it's just you're getting such a fuller picture of the situation. And especially when you're dealing with such heavy emotional issues, I mean, it's having a social worker on with a lawyer is just so helpful when you're dealing with intense emotions and choosing these things.
Yeah, I mean, the approach that they have is you basically tell them what your needs are, as opposed to, and not just from a mechanical point of view. Let's call it that. All right, mechanical meaning, yeah, you need a will, you need this, you need that. Okay, I do, but I got to really give some thought to who the people are who are going to be in that. And it really comes down to, I think, what is your situation at that moment in time? And the less critical your situation is at that moment in time, the better.
Yeah, because you're thinking with say a clearer head, right? Because
I mean,
it's
if you're
not
in a firefighting
you don't have
mode,
all that, right?
It's better to prevent the fire than, sadly, that whole California thing is hard to keep off your mind.
I know.
I just, it's a different topic, but when I see that,
it's heartbreaking.
I mean, it's like all of New Hyde Park being burnt down. It's unbelievable. And this is a digression altogether, but there was one of the reporters on TV who grew up in the town that he was walking through. And that was, he pointed to the buildings. He said, that was the library. Nothing. That was the school I went to. That was the temple or the church I went to. Nothing. His house where he grew up as a kid, gone. I mean, it's so sad. I feel
no, but I think that goes.
It's a digression.
No, but it goes along with like life happens, right? These horrible things that you can't plan for necessarily fully, right?
That's disaster.
But that's why it's so important. We always say to plan for what you can plan for, as best to your ability, because unfortunately, horrendous things and life happens and throws you, for a loop, and you don't even know, what is happening, but having these things, and I laugh, I've said this on the show before, this was something that we always battled with my grandfather about when he was still alive, was planning. And we were always trying to drill home, and luckily we finally succeeded. But was telling him how important it was, like, you get to call the shots right now. Like, you want to be in the situation where you call the shots. No one's telling you what to do, but you can say, I want this, I want this to go here. I want this person to have this. I want my money here, all these things, instead of, not having that choice. It's such an empowering thing, really.
But that's an interesting thing. Like, I'm sure there are things that we push off as well.
Mhm.
All right. But it's two things, really, as I see it. There's denial that anything like this can ever happen to you, or a fear that it could happen to you, and you really don't want to confront it. Or a lot of people just procrastinate.
Yeah. Or you're like my grandpa was like, this is my money, guys, and I'm taking it with me.
Yeah. Well, and what does that really mean?
Yes, but we laugh because my grandpa grew up, during the Depression, a different time, right? A different outlook on things. And he was very, tight with his money. And he worked very hard for it. And and that was, but having a social example, I was his granddaughter. Obviously I was more emotionally involved, but I do have a social work background. So I was able to sit with my grandpa and my mom and say, grandpa, like, this, you get to call the shots here. Like, what you want is what we want. It just unfortunately we're in life where you have to have it, planned out and stuff. And it's a hard thing, but you have to, I understood where he was coming from. He came from nothing, and he was in such fear that, like, what if I need this money, for things. And luckily he did create a life for him that, when he got, towards the end of life, we were able to, cover costs for things, so it's very complicated. But that's exhibit A of why having a social worker part of this planning portion of things and really doing that assessment and finding out your needs is such a huge thing.
It seems like an obvious thing, doesn't
it? Because that's what I said to them. I said, you read it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, why is this just not a standard of practice, and maybe it will be. So I'm really excited too. That's what I love about this show, having people on that are, innovative. And the best part of it is you could feel their passion for what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my favorite guest. And we're very fortunate on the show because majority of our guests, that's exactly how you feel. It comes across that they're really trying to help. They're into what they're doing. I love that Connie, retired, but didn't retire. It's an ongoing theme that we love.
Well, like she said she loves what she's doing. So why not?
Right. And I think that's the key to things. And anyone who missed our first portion, of course, you could always watch us on Project Independence and You, and of course, this Talk of the Town on North Hempstead TV, channel 18 or 65 on Optimum, or channel 46 on Verizon Fios and on North Shore TV, and of course on YouTube. All of our episodes are archived there. So
now, my understanding is we might have it live on YouTube.
We are live. Yes, we are live right now. Now. I mean, really, the pressure is on.
We haven't told anybody.
Yeah. Yes, we're dipping our toe in the. Yes, we're dipping the toe in the water. We don't want to,
This is a test. 1, 2.
We want to make sure.
1, 2, 3. Testing.
Absolutely, but all of our episodes are archived there, and I just think
there's
such good
test. I'll get some test people.
Otto's gonna have a whole posse for this. Oh, Dan is coming in 2025.
Actually, no, I did ask a few people to watch this morning, and I got a text from a friend of mine who had it on his big screen TV in the living room watching. He said it sounded perfect, it looked great, and he loved the content. So
cool.
Another great
show.
So
pat on the back for us, Otto.
Another great show.
It's great for us. We're really just
good.
starting 2025.
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed those two ladies and their message. What they were talking about. I mean,
but
it was
really exhibit A of also what I love is we have, these great guests, and then I always try to tell people, like, it doesn't just end there. It's not, okay, we did an interview. Great. Okay. We forget about it. We're learning on this show, and the format of the show allows us to have like a real conversation. It's not just this, cut and dry presentation that, you forget the information 2 seconds later. You're really understanding it, and it's personal. And, then this information gets taken back, to our social workers and nurses at Project Independence and our staff there, and then now they have that information. We're doing doing a lunch and learn with both of them
That
coming
brings
up.
to an interesting concept. All right. When we are here, we're having a conversation. When they go to any group, and it could be the advisory committee group, they will be up there doing a PowerPoint presentation. All right. If that PowerPoint presentation isn't crisp and to the point, it bombs. All right. So the question would be, how do you do it, what they do here in a group, and have some interaction at the same time without it taking more time than it can be allotted? It's a dilemma.
But I have a feeling they're going to be quite good at it because
yes.
I always love when a guest comes on and says, "You could ask me anything." I'm like, "All right, this is a prepared guest," and I like this. So,
well, I mean, the power presentation you and I have been privy to that they have is very, very good.
Yeah, and that's why we always love to have the fact that we're going to have a meeting with just our internal social workers and nurses before the advisory too, I think is so helpful, because when our staff understands the services that are offered beforehand, you're able to be a part of that and answering questions and whatnot as well. So just really, really cool. I think it's so important for us to all realize that the aging population is growing, and I do think that it's really wonderful to have a show like this where we could have these guests on that can tell us about these new initiatives, because the fact that I remember in Adelphi that I didn't have, I think there might have been one class that was tailored towards seniors when I went to get my master's. And it was hard. You had all these other things, there was substance abuse, there was working with, kids, and I, you wanted that. So the fact that they are facilitating this new program and having these wonderful interns and showing them what they're doing is just really helping the
well,
social
you know
work
what? There's a
students.
question I didn't get to ask, but ties in with what you're talking about. And that is this program at Adelphi is gerontology, and that they get special knowledge to go into this field. What do you think that special knowledge might be?
It's really honing into senior needs, right? So like, you'll hear these things, like, and because it's tailored, you're not, I didn't really learn much about Medicaid things or entitlements,
Right.
or, veterans benefits when you're, like, I mean, all these different things, that now Project Independence is so involved in, you weren't really getting direct experience in those things. And, that's why I always say it's such a blessing that Project Independence, was the timing worked out great for me, I must say, because Project Independence was kind of budding when I was in this thing. And it was just really exciting that I was able to hop on this journey, with them. But I do think that, as Connie was saying, the need of having, not just obviously social work, so senior based, but having geriatricians in the medical field, because as you were saying, seniors, there's a different set of issues and things you have to kind of be mindful of than if you're dealing with a younger person. So I mean, we have specialties for so many things in life. This is certainly one of them that needs to be focused on. So hopefully people will realize, and especially in the financial world of things, because the population is growing, so you got to be mindful of that.
Well, the other thing that I've brought up a number of times is that there's a huge difference between a 60-year-old senior and a 100-year-old senior.
Huge.
So there's like a 40-year spread.
Yeah, right.
That are classified as seniors. All right. That's
Well,
kind
that's
of
what we
like,
always say in Project
that's
Independence.
kind of like going between 5 and 45.
Right.
Is
I'd
there
say it's a bit different. I'd say it's a bit different. I mean,
there's a big difference.
Some people maybe not, but
No, but there's a big difference between 60 and 100.
No, absolutely. And that you really, it's the truth. And I wish I could I have it somewhere. I started working
I guess the point there is that you can't just broad brush.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a senior.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a senior. I'm 88. How old are you? 62.
Yeah.
You're 62.
I'm a senior?
Yeah, right.
No.
He said
you are a senior.
Yeah. He's like, absolutely not.
But
Dan's not believing
the
it.
facts of life are there's a difference between not just the age, but the physical and health status of that person.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and I think, you need to be aware of that. And that's what,
Yeah.
these education things are, that it isn't, as we were saying, this, cookie cutter situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot more complicated things that go on, and to be aware of that is certainly important. And I even say with social work in general too, because, I laugh. It's gotten better over the years, but I remember when I first started, it's like, a social worker, so you're just want to take my kids away. Like that was kind of like the idea of what a social worker was. And I remember my mom, because my bachelor's was in sociology, and then I wanted to go on to my master's, and I wasn't sure. I had some marketing interest there. I was all over the place. And my mom, I remember,
normal.
And I remember my mom was saying to me, she was like, I looked up this social work, and it just sounds like you. And she was like reading the whole thing, and I was like, all right, like I'll give it a go. Like let's try. And then here we are. But what I love about social work too is that it really is such a broad thing, and you can obviously do direct one-on-one, assistance for someone in counseling, and, but then there's things like policy, and then there's things like programming. I mean, it's such a broad field, and that's what, oh my gosh, and Otto, look, we just finished our first segment, and I'm still yapping away on my soapbox here. After the break, Otto and I will continue talking about what's going on in the town of North Hempstead. You're listening to Project Independence, and you talk of the town on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence, and you talk of the town on LIU Public Radio. Let's jump right back in about the town and life and aging in North Hempstead, Otto. We were talking before the break, just about social work and our first guest and the importance of things. And I want anyone listening or watching, to contact Project Independence. You can call 311 or 516-869-6311. And we can get you, connected to so many wonderful programs. And what's always nice about a new year is, there's new planning and new ideas. And I have to give a shout out to our social workers and nurses, because they're really trying to think of innovative new programming for 2025. And it's just that's what's fun about Project Independence, and being with the program, since the beginning, is just seeing how we're always constantly, reevaluating or trying to incorporate new programs, make new partnerships, and just, build the toolbox. We're always saying we're trying to find tools for our toolbox, and that's certainly what this show does for Project Independence. Yeah. Just a lot of good golden nuggets. But my friend Otto, we are back, and it's last we chatted, it was the holidays, and we were talking about the resolutions that we might have for 2025, and how we both really weren't resolution based, that we kind of just like set goals more so. So have you set some goals for yourself for 2025, or you're just sliding
different than I set back and whenever I retired.
Yeah, that's right. Same guy, my friend.
My belief is you can, maybe somebody who has a weight problem says, okay, I'm really, really going to work at cutting down. All right. But I think the way my brain works, that would be an ongoing proposition.
Exactly.
So probably, in my view, you're better off if you think about these goals as ongoing goals, as opposed to, oh, okay, it's January 1st, 2025, and I got these great goals. I'm not in that camp. I'm more.
Me too. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's more of
I have the long.
I also don't want to set myself up for disappointment either. When you're like you, because I know a lot of my friends like, okay, I need this by this. And I'm the queen of like, let's just, take a day by day and incorporate more of a lifestyle change than like
lifestyle is the word, I think.
Right.
Do you want to have a goal that you want to visit London this year? That's something different. All right. But otherwise, lifestyle, I think, is what we're talking about, and things within your lifestyle, which could be family, money, financial, maybe you have to get yourself into financial shape, physical.
No, and I like what you said too, because I do think what is important, which I definitely try and do, and that's something that I would like to set, is, you kind of just check in with yourself, right? Throughout the, daily, whatever it might be. And am I doing what I want, right? Am I on the path of how I want things to be? And we're all going to get caught off and veer off, from things. And as I had mentioned before, it's like, try not to, which, I'm going to try to do this, keyword try, is really just like, limit the amount of stress that you bring into your life. All I see constantly is the impacts of stress on and creating illnesses in people, and just how it really takes a toll on like your physical health, frankly. And I think that it's a very difficult thing because, as we said, there's life happens and crazy things pop up. But I do believe, that that's something that I want to, be a little more mindful of. And I think that's important, as you said, an ongoing kind of thing. Just check in with yourself and see.
It's, we all go through little gaps of stress. Like a new TV, we went through chapter.
Otto's like 2025, same TV. Now I need to know the burning.
Fully contained.
Okay. Well, that was, really what I was hoping for 2025, that Otto's TV situation.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like a short-term annoyance that you have to,
of course,
get over.
But you know what it is, but with something like that, because, you hear that a lot, right? Like, oh, it's something little, like, what do you care? But I do believe, especially too, because I've seen it with my own family. It's like, as you age, right? And I'll use my mom, sorry, mom, as an example, spends her life, worrying about life and stressing and worrying about others to, and not just your average level of worry, like the internalization of what that person is going through, and, here she is, she just turned 70, and it's taken its toll on her, so like little things are hard, harder. So like something with a TV would really, I mean, Barbara loves a TV, so that would set her right off, throw her right off. But so like it's those little things add up, and then sometimes when you're in a state of a stressful situation, becomes very, hard to deal with, and that's why it's so important to prioritize your mental health and do those things of self-care. And it's something that I think a lot of us, put on the back burner.
Well, what's interesting is frustration a form of stress, or is frustration?
I think it's like a low end. Yeah, it's like
you get
on the lower end
frustrated
spectrum.
because you can't even get to a certain channel because you don't understand yet what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right. And you got 3 remote controls. And you had 2 before. Now you got 3. Okay. So I'm pretty good at doping it out, but there's little humps and hurdles along the way.
Of course.
And then I finally had my guru son-in-law put the polishing touches on it.
I like that. Put the polishing touches on it. I like that.
Yeah. And now I think it's great. The TV is working good,
Yeah.
except for the fact that the sound once in a while goes like way up. You ever have that?
Yeah, because I think like certain channels and streaming services, that is the case.
I mean, all of a sudden you're listening.
But
I didn't have that before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you got a newer thing. It's more sensitive. I mean, that happens on my TV all the time. If I switch from Netflix to Hulu to cable, I'll say to Dan.
Yeah. Well, that
cringes.
See, even that in the
cable.
beginning, you realize you've got to load the app of Acorn and Hulu and whatever onto the cable part, which Dan doesn't have, of course, but so he doesn't have cable. He doesn't have station numbers,
right?
Like most of us do.
Yes. Like the cool kids are still like the vintage kids over here are holding on to. But it's
you
all
mean the old people.
he just shamed us. Otto, did you hear that? But I really in the January newsletter, e-newsletter, which if you would like to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, it's a really jam-packed with great information. Not just about Project Independence programs, but things that are going on within the town. And our January one, I put in healthy New Year resolutions for seniors. And it was just some meaningful and achievable resolutions to make you, happy and healthier. And it was, of course, the importance of staying active. It's aiming for regular physical activity that you enjoy. And that's the key to all of this. And Otto and I say this all the time. The two of us are not gym people. We don't.
True.
It's not our thing to go to a gym. But we do value the importance of staying active. And we both enjoy walking, especially an outdoors walk. So that's something we enjoy. So we're more likely to do that. Of course, now that I have my little dog, going outdoors with him and doing these active things are fun for me. So I enjoy that. So I'm more likely to do that. So I think the key is to find something that, brings you joy that you like doing, whether it's walking, yoga, swimming, even gardening. Or if you're like myself, I was laughing because I was like trying, I definitely want to be even more active in the new year. You have all these goals and stuff. And of course, I've been in the hell abyss of putting away Christmas decorations. And
I did that, thank God, when it was a warm day.
Well, we haven't done our outside yet because of that, but I'm talking about just the indoor. So I did my mom's upstairs. I did all that, put away. And of course, Otto and I have talked about, I have to do like the storage box shift,
you have to bring it all to the warehouse.
Yeah, I have to bring it to the the warehouse garage. And I always think of you, Otto, every time I'm actually in the garage moving these things. But late last night, like one does, I was putting away my Christmas decorations inside because I was like, it just has to get done. Luckily my garage is heated, so it's not unbearable.
There's no cars in there.
No, there is no cars in there. Please, to my husband's dismay, frankly. But I was shifting and I was like laughing. I was like, this is being active though. I'm sitting there, I'm lifting these boxes. I was like, God only knows how much working out I was doing in that garage, moving things.
Before you know, you're going to need a forklift.
I actually thought about that yesterday. I was like lifting something and I was like, this box is so heavy, but I was making sure to bend my knees. So for my mom,
that's exercise.
Yeah, it was real. I was thinking, it was just so much lifting and stuff. So, and in a weird way, I do enjoy doing it. It's kind of like part of the organizer in me. So it's not terrible to do it. I put my podcast on and I'm rocking and rolling in the garage. But I was thinking I was quite the way through. There's all kinds of different ways of staying active is my point of the story. Of course, the importance of eating well. Focus on balanced, nutrient-rich meals that include plenty of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lean proteins. This was my favorite part because I'm a firm believer in small changes can lead to big health benefits. I'm never been a dieting girl. I just can't even imagine. Some of my friends really have done it. I've just never been my thing. I'm more of a moderation person. And I think goes back to our original like lifestyle kind of change in things. And obviously the holidays were filled with, sweets and cookies, and especially live in my house, it was like an endless supply of cookies that just kept appearing from all different realms of things. But in the new year, my husband and I were like, all right. And we are lucky because it is a lifestyle thing for us. Jay and I really eat pretty well, and we like, we love salmons and the chickens and the vegetables and stuff. So like, that's actually we like, so it's not, hard for us.
Are you a nibbler in between?
I am not really a nibbler.
No.
I'm not much of a nibbler, I must say. I do have a bit of a sweet tooth, so I could, but like, not like I'll eat a row of cookies, I'll have like a cookie or two, but once again, I'm also a moderation girl. So I think if you want the cookie, don't limit yourself to having the cookie, but everyone's health is different in their kind of way of it. But, I think it's a good time to check in and we really, I made these, and it's not that it's really just so good to have these vegetables and you feel better after. Cause for example, yesterday I work all day. I'm always trying to find meals that are quick and easy to do, because the last thing I want to do is, creating a whole thing. So last night it was so delicious and it's going to be part of my cycle of meals. I did some chicken. I grilled some, I sauteed some chicken
in a frying pan,
and I had some Mediterranean, just grilled chicken. And I put some little, Mediterranean, and that's something too, like spices really can jazz up your thing. You don't need all this like salt and breading and all this stuff. If you just have some spices, it really makes a difference. And I learned that on this show from Cornell Cooperative, who said to do that. And I had some diced cucumbers, some diced tomatoes, some feta, and chickpeas. Put
that all in with the chicken?
Chickpeas. Well, I had some brown rice, whole grain rice. And I squeezed a little lemon on top, and there was a little bit of olive oil, and it was like a delicious Greek bowl. And my husband was like, "This is so delicious," and it was colorful. And I always think about the show because that's always what our new
color is important.
Is color.
Yeah,
it's having a colorful plate, and it was so colorful, and I was like, "This was delicious," and took me all of 10 minutes to like throw together.
Well, we've talked about this before, but do you use an air fryer?
Yes, I do use an air fryer.
We have 2 air fryers.
2 air fryers. Dedication.
Well, we had one.
Yes.
And it had space in it. Then I got this other one that has 2 compartments.
That's what I have.
Can do 2 things at the same time.
That's what I have.
But those 2 compartments
aren't that
a little
big.
narrow.
Yes, I know.
So I kept the other one.
Yes, I get it.
So now we're a 2 air fryer family.
It sounds like something that would occur
but
in our
use them
household.
all the time.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
I make chicken in an air fryer, which is really great.
It's really, it's just so good. It would taste really good in the air fryer is when you throw some carrots in there and potatoes. Delicious.
In an air fryer?
In the air fryer. They come
Say
out.
That now again. You take
carrots and potatoes, and they're like roasted so lovely. Delicious. Really just A+.
And what do you put on?
I just throw a little olive oil. I'm like a queen of black pepper. I love black pepper.
Okay.
So I put black pepper on everything.
How long do you leave it in there roughly?
It depends.
Fresh carrots?
I usually have just baby carrots.
Okay.
Yeah, just baby carrots.
Right.
I get those little tiny potatoes.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes I'll throw some rosemary, if I'm getting crazy. But it's like the right amount of crisp, and it's A+. Well, and I love Brussels sprouts too, and I also put Brussels sprouts
in the air fryer.
Yep.
With a little olive oil.
Just a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
I like, I put it all in a bowl, and I put the olive oil on it, and so then I just kind of shake it up, and then I toss it right in.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. But I think the air fryer, that's a great point. And now they have so many. It's like, that's like in itself like a whole
now you have to go on Consumers Report.
Because it's like air fryer oven looking things, and then you can get a new oven that actually has an air fryer built into it.
I mean, complicated it.
It's of course, like most things,
Yeah.
But I do have
buy an air fryer.
I do have the 2-1 that I like. And people even bake cakes in the air fryer. So crazy stuff in the air fryer. But also, number 3 on the resolution list was prioritize your mental health. Engage in activities that bring joy and keep your mind sharp, such as reading, puzzles, hobbies, and just learning something new. Don't hesitate to connect with loved ones or seek support when needed. And that's just another thing, it's just important to, keep your mind active, right? We're always talking about keeping your physical body active, but it's just as important to keep your mind active and just finding what you like to do.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Major topic nowadays. And I have this thing in my head, which I heard somebody from Project Independence talk about, the need for therapeutic housing. We had years ago many different institutions, if you will. Unfortunately, we call them very derogatory terms, and they were shut down. I'm a big believer that we need therapeutic housing where people who have a problem that is a danger to themselves and then, frankly, a danger to society need to be able to go to for their own good and call it therapeutic housing. So how do we get people to do that?
It's hard, that's
I've never heard anybody outside of Project Independence use that term.
Yeah.
And to me, I believe there's a major need.
Yeah. And and maybe it will be saying, there's unfortunately, it's something
but you
that
never hear of it.
It's so complicated because you're involving so many things, right? So you're involving, where is it? The neighborhood, how they feel. There's so many.
We had all of those things.
Yeah.
Creedmoor, Kings Park,
and it's funding. I mean, like it all comes back to that.
We had it funded, and we had places, but we just didn't.
It wasn't the
handle them the right way.
It was a different time where things were, clearly.
I mean, back then, frankly, a husband could tell somebody to put his wife in an institution.
Yeah.
Talk. So, I mean, that's always a problem, that people get forced into something where they don't really belong.
But that's, I think,
on the other hand,
mental health though is clearly, and as we said, since COVID, and I have seen, little baby steps to people being more open to talking about it. And certainly it's become a focus in so many more realms of things. I mean, if you're on social media, people are always talking about, mental health and checking in and different like tips and stuff. So maybe it'll come. And if it does, we'll certainly have it on the show where people will talk about it. But Otto, we have another break. After the break, Otto and I will talk about what's going on in the town of North Hempstead. You're listening to Project Independence, and you talk of the town on LIU Public Radio.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence, and you talk of the town on LIU Public Radio. We'll jump right back in to some resolutions for the new year. This one is certainly one of something that you always preach, is the importance of staying socially connected. Keep in touch with family and friends, join community groups, or volunteer. Staying socially active helps maintain emotional health. This is what we saw during COVID, right? There were so many people that didn't have that connection and really deteriorated. And I think we're realizing even more so that, it's important to, certainly get your regular checkups and everything, but it's really important to be the social component of things is important.
World,
Yeah.
right, is the older you get,
Yeah.
the less of the people around you who
Mhm.
you were socially connected
Mhm.
with are there.
Mhm.
All right.
No, absolutely.
So all of a sudden, one day you look and you say, wow, out of that group of 10, there's 2 of us left. So
Yeah, and
it
that's
it
why you
is a
need new
real
things. It's a
mental
real,
situation.
because it could
for-
happen fast.
It does
absolutely.
happen fast.
It,
Trust me. Yeah.
and that's why it's so important, like a Project Independence that offers these kind of things. And, sometimes, unfortunately, you have to force yourself and put yourself out there. And I speaking for even my own self, you might, you get comfortable with your little group and whatnot. And, but, to go to these things. And that's why we at Project Independence try to offer so many different programs and services.
Just talking out loud about that, all right? I think probably one of the biggest things that me, and anybody else in my category has to think about is that it will never be the same as it was with the people who you were socially connected with from when you were 20 years old to now.
Right.
All right. It's just not going to be. So I think part of the acceptance of change in life is that, yes, you can be socially connected, but be realistic about the fact that you can't develop a friendship that's going to last for 60 years when you're 80 years old. All right. Because when you're both 140, it's going to be tough. All right. That's a fact. All right. So, I think the acceptance of the reality of the depth of the social connection that you can have will never be what it was before. But it's
a different kind of friendship.
That's the game.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's something even like, and I always say something, even just in general, right? Friendships are all different, right? So you'll have your longtime friendship. And I remember being a little tiny girl, and I was in the office and I was upset about some kind of friendship drama. And my mom's coworker, who was an older woman, she said, "Kristina, like, you have to just put your friends in boxes, right? And that's okay. There's a different friend for different things. So there's your friend that, you can go out with. There's your friend, that you're going to lean on for an emotional thing, whatever it is." And I think that that's a similar concept to this aging thing, is that you forge a new friendship, and I guess obviously it's not as easy, right? When you're younger, you're bopping around, you can make friends all over the place, but there are still so many programs out there, and not just Project Independence is providing. We're partnered with so many agencies that have all kinds of social groups and support groups, and you never know who you're going to meet that you're going to click with.
It's like the train ride of life.
Yes,
thing,
exactly.
Right? When you get on the train, the first stop is your parents, your mother, your grandparents, whoever, and then you keep going on this train ride. And there are new people that get on the train, off the train, whatever. And you get near the end stations, all right? You don't know how many stations are left.
Yeah.
All right. But the facts are you haven't been on that train for 15 stations. Now you're on stop 16, somebody else gets on the train. You can't relive what happened in the past 15 trains at that point in time. And that's a difficulty. It's a reality. I mean, that's what people have to live with that.
Yeah.
And
and you're right. And listen, you could sit there and I get it's extremely difficult and painful. And, but I think that, what you said, Otto, is you could, once you accept it and realize that, yes, it's not gonna, you have the correct, it's all about expectations. And I think it's, you say, all right, listen, this is just going to be this is my later in life friend. And we're going to, have a different kind of relationship. You don't have that same history, but that's okay. You could still, have a good relationship with that person.
Yeah. And don't expect younger people to think that you're not an older person. All right.
Well, I don't think you're an older person.
No, I know, but
I do.
Well, another little tale out of school. Yesterday, all right, my first wife's brother had passed away. All right. And we had a luncheon at this place. So naturally, I got up and said a few words.
Of course, they said, we vote Otto.
Yeah, and I used to play golf with him, and he was a classic instigator of. I can't use the right words on the show here, but but he was a professional.
Okay, gotcha.
Breaker.
Yes,
right? He was a master.
Yes.
So I said that to everybody.
A button pusher.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Yes.
I proclaimed him. I gave him the award for the best, and I said he'd be really proud of it.
Yeah.
But I also said in the beginning, I said, I met him when I was 21 years old. And I said to everybody, I really was 21 at one time. And that's, that some people don't get that. They don't realize that you weren't always 80.
Yeah. Right.
Or whatever I am.
I forgot for like, wait a second.
I know what I am. But the bottom line is, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
All right. You can't expect an 18-year-old to think you're 23 years old. You're not.
No.
Right. You're 88 years old. And in their eyes, you're about 140.
Yeah. Right.
Right. That's the fact. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, but I think, Otto, I was, and not to toot your own horn, but we're kicking off the show in 2025. So, I can, restart the tooting of your horn. You though, I think are so aware of these things and, you're open to changing with the times. You're not one of those guys. And I think that's where people get stuck a lot. Some of my favorite comedians, right? We all love Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
And, Steve Martin and Martin Short, what makes them relevant is that they change with the time.
With Selena Gomez, who's much younger.
So, exactly. So,
right.
I mean, I see a parallel, but, if anyone listening or watching, but, I think that's what makes them special, right? Because they're willing to, and it's funny, their dynamic. And that's why we all love it. Like, no matter what age you are, because they're hilarious and their take on things is funny. And I even say that with my mom all the time, musicians or comedians, the ones that, have lasting impact, change with the times and recognize that the things aren't different. You're not going to be making the same joke you did, 50 years ago in 2025, and I think that those are the best people. And that's what you do, is that you
look at Tony Bennett hooking up with Lady Gaga.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
I
mean, opened
that's
his
like two different planets.
Right. No, but exactly like that. And that's why you have such great relationships with your kids and your grandkids, because, you always say this, with technology, you recognize that's how they communicate. So if I want to communicate with my grandchildren, I have to figure this out, so you have to, that's something that it's a both sided thing. But I love that about you, because you're willing to embrace those things and learn new things.
But how do you, I'm not tooting my horn here. How did I get like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're just an angel on earth.
I don't think it just happens. I don't know how it happens.
It's largely personal, right? So I'm not. People are born a certain way. Like, all jokes aside, I'm a firm believer in, like, you're kind of innately born with a certain.
You have a deck of cards when you start.
Right. There's something that is in you that's a certain way. So obviously it's easier to force, because you can't. We all know the person, and you and I have laughed. That they're just not going to change, right? they're going to be that person, and that's just who they are. And you have to either accept it or not have that person in your life, so I was just having a conversation with my best friend because she was upset about something. And I said, and I'm great at giving, of course, but I get hurt as well. But it's like, you can't change the person. You can only change how you handle, your interactions with the person, your boundaries with the person. And it goes back to the expectations, whatever your expectations, you have to have realistic expectations, of course. And that's very hard for me because I wish I could be forcing everyone to make the correct decision all the time, in my eyes. But you have to accept that's where they're at.
That all evolves over time.
That is also my
that
point.
Knowledge. Right?
It really does because, I'm, going to be 40. My best friend is in her early 30s, and she has a little sister who's in her mid 20s. So it's you have 3 decades, and we were all on a call together. And it was just interesting because, I was saying to Jay, I said, how we all react is based on the years and stuff and the experience. And it was interesting because you really got a glimpse of a more impulsive thing in the younger, and then you kind of see, it was just interesting. And I said, Jay, it's all about just experience and the years of dealing with relationships and stuff. So I
think part of it is, if you think about it, is learning from your experience.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's very true too.
You really, you get a bad knock, you run into, I always tell people and my own family, who is complaining about their job situation. Happens when you're younger. Your job is a big, important part of your life. All right. Later on, it's not so important. And when you look back, most people don't even know what the hell you did for a living. All right. That's the truth, really. I mean, I spent 60 years in the field. Nobody knows what I did. And that's a fact. All right. So what it comes down to is what goes on after that probably means more than what went on during your work world.
Right.
All right. But when you're in your work world, I like to put it now, it's like playing a big game. You have to make a living. So it's like a big Monopoly game. You have to make a living. Hopefully you like the game you're playing. But every now and then you run into working for somebody who's a moron, who got the job.
I didn't know it was going right there.
who got the job through some political sucking up, if you will, or whatever. All right. And the facts are that they really don't belong in that job. All right. So you have a choice now. If you work for this person, you have a choice. You can change. That person will never change. So you can change your attitude about that situation or leave. It's as simple as that. Otherwise you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. So you either adapt.
It's a very good thing. And I'm always a firm believer in you give yourself space, because we laugh about it, just in life, at work, whatever it might be. You give yourself some time to, get in your feelings about it and upset. And then you have to make the choice that you said, that I'm either going to let this eat me away and harbor it, or I'm going to, just be okay, this is just the world. This is just life, and it is something, and it's hard because that's something that you can't really teach someone. You have to just kind of teach yourself to do that, which is hard.
I think you have to self-analyze every now and then.
Well, that's what I said. You got to give yourself a check-in.
Right.
It's all about the check-ins. And number 5 on the resolution list is regular checkups. Okay. So this is make health screenings and doctor visits a priority. Prevention and early detection are powerful tools for staying healthy.
I'm a big one on that.
I mean, we say that all the time on the show.
I had several major events that could have been disastrous.
Exactly. And number 6 is practice gratitude. Reflect on daily moments of joy and embrace a positive outlook. Gratitude can uplift the spirit and boost overall well-being. Small steps can lead to lasting changes. And here's to a new year filled with some good health, and happiness. And I think that the gratitude thing, a lot of people, just but it makes such a difference to really practice it too. It's not just being oh yes, I'm so happy for everything. It's like these blanket statements. You really have to internalize.
It's not just from a top level either. Like once in a while, I get into this thing. You take 2 pieces of paper and you're able to separate those 2 pieces of paper with your fingers. Right?
Okay.
You ever think about what a miracle that is?
What? See, look at this guy, Dan.
Really?
Look at this guy.
I have. It gives me a
Look
headache.
at this guy.
There's so many.
This is too complicated for it. This is too heavy.
Every day is a miracle.
Yeah.
People don't realize
No, there's so many things that
they take for granted.
And then when you look around
Mhm.
and you see some of the
Devastation.
LA,
Yep.
Los Angeles.
that's a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel for those people.
No,
It's
and
so
that's what I
bad.
want to say too on this show.
I mean, they're starting
The
from
prayers
scratch.
for them,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking, and I actually had to like take a step back from like going on social because it was just it was just so much.
It's terrible. I mean,
it was
you're
horrifying.
wiped out. Like
Yeah.
I said, it's like New Hyde Park being completely wiped out.
No, and it's
or more.
and I
It's
think
bigger.
like it's very easy for people to say like, oh, it's just a house, it's just material
Yeah,
things
right. Okay.
and this and that. But you're missing the point of like what is tied up in that, and
Well, Billy Crystal,
yeah.
I just read in the
Mhm.
newspaper today, his house
Yeah.
burnt down. I think he lived there like 47
Yeah.
years. He raised his family there.
Right.
The whole bit, many, many memories,
Mhm.
lots of great stuff.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And he has money, so he can
But well, they're right.
rebuild.
Right.
But like the people are saying, my favorite restaurant burnt down, the library
Yeah.
burnt down, this burnt down.
The
Everything I'm
schools.
familiar with burnt down.
Yeah.
The school my
Yeah.
kids go
Right.
to is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting from complete
Yeah.
scratch.
And I think it's just horrifying because here we are talking about Los Angeles. It's like it hits a level of like it's LA. Like, wait, what? Like how is this even possible? And it's just but I think, an example like that, and unfortunately, a lot of times it takes these horrible tragedies to make you, reevaluate and say, I'm grateful for this and that. But that's why I think it's important to just make that a practice of your
Well,
daily life.
here's a thought I had on that. All right. And God forbid we ever have anything like it.
Mhm.
I often think, well, okay, something like that happens and they tell you got to get out.
Mhm.
All right. And I know we had the New York State emergency
Mhm.
people with us with the backpack
Mhm.
and whatnot. But in addition to that,
Mhm.
I'm thinking
What do
one
you
of the
take?
things I would take is I got a small safe in the house.
Mhm.
I've got a computer.
Well, let me
And I
yeah.
would make sure I take both of those.
So I actually screenshot what was on there, and this goes to, just for everyone, obviously just like some emergency prep. And it said, grab the 6 Ps because, I love a bulleted list. And I was
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
is this? I was intrigued. And it was people and pets, papers, phone numbers, and important documents, prescriptions, vitamins, and
There
eyeglasses,
you go.
pictures and irreplaceable memorabilia, personal computer, hard drive disk.
See, the computer part of it would take care of, in my case, the pictures
Yeah,
because I
right.
scanned them. all.
Exactly. And then plastic, which is your credit cards and cash. So those were like, I was like, this is a great.
Send me that. will
I
you?
will, yeah, because
Yeah.
I sent it to my friends.
Yeah.
I was like, because I saw this and I was like, oh, this is because that's what was so horrifying too, is that people, you're in this panic situation, and we always talk about being in crisis, and your brain is just like, you're like, what do I do? So prayers to everyone.
I mean,
in
the other part of
California.
it that I don't get is all of a sudden people are starting to point the blame. Whose fault is it? This
Well,
and that,
that's
all right?
it's human
How
nature.
can you blame anybody?
Yeah.
Unless somebody started the fire
Right.
somewhere on purpose,
Mm,
which we'll
right.
never know.
Yeah.
But it's like I look around by where we are. Every pole, every wire,
Mhm.
everything that was there is gone,
Yeah.
burnt down. So electricity, cell phones,
Right.
gas stations, you name it,
Yeah, I know. It's a scary time.
gone.
But that's why be grateful, and
Exact. That's the
and be
point that
kind to
started
other
this.
people,
Yeah.
and I think, don't lead to making assumptions or judgments on people, and I think, that's how everyone could start off 2025. It will certainly, to reflect on some joy and embrace a more positive outlook is not always easy, but I think it's something we all can strive.
when you're in a good spot,
Yes,
even though you may not think it's
right.
really good,
Yeah.
it's not too bad
Yeah, right.
usually. Right?
Exactly. And I think,
Yeah.
Otto, that is a wonderful kind of wrap up for our show, first show of 2025. If you have any questions about anything that's going on in North Hempstead, call 311 or 516-869-6311. Thank you for listening to Project Independence and You, Talk of the Town. I'd like to thank you, Otto, for another great show. Project Independence and You is a production of Long Island University Public Radio, and a special thank you to Dan Cox. Join us again next Friday at 10 a.m. on LIU Public Radio. Goodbye and have a great weekend.